Hey guys, happy Tuesday. We just had a long feeding day yesterday, and today we're just kind of going around the room. I'm checking on all the snakes. I gotta do some more cleaning, get all the poop out of the cages. There's a couple mice that I leave in racks overnight, in the tubs overnight, if they're pickier eaters, to see if maybe it'll get them on food. Let's see, check down here. The one that I see that I left it in. Let's see. Nope. So it didn't eat the mouse. So I'll get that out of here shortly. And I think there's one other one that I left the mouse in with. Oh, so this one did eat. This is a big girl that was on food and then went off food and hasn't eaten for a few weeks. And she wouldn't take rats or ASFs. So I was like, you know what? Let me throw a mouse in there, and she did eat it. So that's usually what I do with the prey items that aren't more dangerous. To me, leaving a rat in there overnight's probably pretty dangerous, especially with those bigger snakes, because they can hurt you, and they can definitely hurt the snakes. And ASFs are pretty strong biters as well, and especially the bigger ASFs. So I never leave those in there overnight, but mice I'm usually okay with because they are so small compared to the bigger snakes that I leave them in with. So it looks like one out of two of the snakes that I did that with last night ate. So that is good. Sounds like we got some rat fights going on over there too. So now there's something that's we've been kind of talking about a little bit in my Patreon, which I wanted to kind of go over a little bit today, and that's females, and whether or not they're potentially gravid, which means pregnant, that they're actually making eggs. And somebody in our Patreon group thought that a female is gravid, and she still might be. I don't know for sure, but the female's at like 48 days, and typically, females are laying their eggs 30 days after a pre-lay shed. This snake was at like 48 days right now, and not showing any signs of laying. And I was asking questions, and here's where I'll kind of get to the show and tell part of it. So I have 3 girls right now that I know are getting ready to lay eggs. Typically, after a pre-lay shed, your females are going to be sitting on heat, and they're going to be, coiled up pretty well. After that, before the pre-lay shed, the weeks before, they're probably going to be bull wrapped. They're going to be moving around a lot. You're going to see their big ovulation, and they're not going to necessarily be stuck on the heat. But this girl just shed a couple days ago, so she's not coiled up all the way yet. But the 2 other girls that are basically ready to lay here in the next 10 days, 15 days, that's what they look like. So there's one. That one's due in about, 15 days? 15 days, about 2 weeks. This girl's due, today is the 16th. She's due around 26th, so she's due in 10 days. This is what they look like. Your females, when they are getting ready to lay, if you think you had a pre-lay shed, they are coiled up in a coil, in a ball shape like that, and they're hugging the heat. They're not moving around the tubs. These 2 females, for the past 3 weeks after their pre-lay shed, I'm in here every day checking them, making sure they're okay, just open up, checking the waters, and they haven't moved. Every single time I've opened up these tubs, these snakes have not moved. That doesn't mean that a gravid female won't move. That doesn't mean that you won't find them up here every once in a while getting a drink of water, moving around, or getting in a more comfortable position. But like this girl, they don't move. They're back here all the time. So if you're opening up this tub every day and you're seeing that, they're all over the place and they're crawling around and they're not in this kind of balled up shape, it might be that your snake is not gravid. They typically do not move out of this position once they're there. Now, obviously, this is a situation where having a ultrasound can come in handy if you're not positive if your snake is gravid or not. But I'm on the fence about whether or not an ultrasound is necessary. I went most of my snake breeding career not having one. I got one last year. I bought like a nice one. It was the one Billy recommends through his Patreon, and I have a link to it through my Patreon as well, for my people through Billy does it through like direct through China or Japan or wherever they're manufactured. But you have to send a money order over there, and Billy said it was safe, and I trust him, but to me that's kind of shady. I actually found a reseller through the UK that costs the same price. So if you're in my Patreon, I have a link to that in there if you're looking for it. It's about $2,000. It comes with the foot pedal. It's this little guy right here. It's the same exact model that Billy from Mutation Creation uses. Same exact thing. So I spent $2,000 on that. Well, if I'm going to start breeding tons of females, I probably need another follicle size, and it does help. It's not that it doesn't have any purpose, but I don't know if it's worth the $2,000. If you can get like a cheap one somewhere or a used one and it works and it gets the job done, you're better off doing that. The way I looked at it was, if I'm going to buy one, I might as well buy a nice one. And that's not, a bad route to go. But to me, I typically use the ultrasound to figure out if a female is building. Whether or not, I have a couple females here where the couple times that I've measured them, like this one's still at 5. And I've measured them multiple times and they're still at 5. But then I saw this one jumped up to 15 one day, so I started pairing them. That's basically what I ultrasound them for. I don't even know if I really need to or want to ultrasound this girl anymore. It could be a waste of time. If I'm ultrasounding a bunch of other females, I might throw her in there, but I don't think it's necessary. This female, she was at 8. She's been at 8 forever. And, this girl started building pretty fast. So basically, the purpose of the ultrasound, if anything, is to make sure that you're not overdoing it with your males and you're not wasting their pairings, because at some point they're going to get their sperm counts are probably going to get too low. They can only produce so much sperm, and if you're throwing them in with different females every day of the week, hoping that you catch the different follicle sizes, and before you catch the ovulation, you're probably going to wear out that male. And you don't want to do that, because that could potentially cause you to create some clutches that aren't fertilized, that you have a bunch of slugs or issues. But even with me ultrasounding last year, the couple times that I did, I don't even know if it really affected the outcome of my season. It didn't necessarily change my pairing patterns with these guys. Typically what I do, today's Tuesday, everybody ate yesterday, I will pull the male out, if they ate, and I will put it in with the next female. And I'd be doing that regardless of whether or not there's follicle growth, because I don't know if this female that's sitting at 5, she's going to be a lower priority than the female at 15, but she's still going to get paired up to a snake, because we still don't know what causes that female to actually start building follicles. We don't know if it's getting a pairing in there. We don't know if it's just something biologically that occurs when it feels like occurring, but I'm still going to put a male in there every couple weeks anyways to see if it does help stimulate it, or with the odds of me catching it, that she is starting to build follicles. Ultrasounding does take quite a bit of time, especially when you have a bigger collection. I don't recommend spending thousands of dollars on an ultrasound if you have 10 females. It's just not worth it. At this point, when I have 2 or 3 racks full of females, I'm probably going to do a check-in every couple months just to see where everybody's at. But again, if the female's ready to breed, I'm throwing males in there anyways, regardless of what that ultrasound's telling me. Now, it does help. Billy had Bob Vu on one of his interviews through Patreon, and if you can see this up here, Bob Vu said this is typically the 3 follicle sizes where he tries to get a male in there to pair and get a visual lock. So 12, 19, and 25. He felt like that was all you needed. Some people say you just need one lock, and that's possible as well, especially if that male is very, very potent. I don't like to take that chance. You know, to me, the more fertilization, the better, I guess. Try to keep this video monetized as much as I can. The more fertilization, the better of those eggs. So if there's a chance that you only get one lock with a snake, especially if it's an important clutch and something happens where those eggs aren't fully fertilized, you're wasting a lot of potential there. So I think Bob Vu's, 3 follicle sizes to try to hit that pairing and that lock is probably good information. That's kind of what I try to stick to. But I mean, these 2 females, I haven't witnessed any locks. They are not growing follicles. They've actually had different males in there. And I'm not getting anything out of them. This female, her follicle size was always a little bit bigger than these 2. And I started putting a male in here. As you can see, I've seen 3 locks already because I'm not going by just that, 12, 19, 25. She was actually lower than the 15 at one point. I threw a male in. I got a lock. She started building some more follicles. Let's see. This is a clown pied female. And she hasn't eaten in a few weeks. And you can definitely tell that she's starting to build. Her backside looks a little more swollen than normal. And I don't know if she's going to be pooping there or not, because I don't remember actually the last time she ate. And I'm actually probably going to ultrasound her sooner than later just to see what her follicle size is at. Whereas this female, she is still eating. She actually just ate yesterday. She's huge. She's at 14. But because like my confusion male wasn't pairing up with her, I started throwing in a different male, and I do have 2 confirmed locks with that male because it took so long to get a lock with her. I wanted to make sure that, the locks were coming hard and fast. This female looks like she just took a poop in there. Same thing, big girl. She's a 10. I got a lock with her. On the flip side, and I've showed her in the past several weeks, this girl has been at 12 forever. And now she's had 2 different males. She's had 6 locks over, this is a whole entire year. And she has not moved past 12 millimeter follicles. I don't know what's wrong with her now that there's a second male in there that I'm trying. Hopefully it gets a little bit of progress. Not giving my hopes up. This is a girl that I grew up, that I hatched a few years back, that she's basically been at 12 for quite a while and has a few locks, but still isn't really doing a whole lot. It's a bamboo pinstripe ultramel that I produced, I think in 2021. Still really no development there. Let's see, this girl had quite a few locks too. This is my other lightning pied girl, and as you can see, this big ovulation is looking pretty big here. So this is typically what their behavior is before they have their pre-lay shed. So she is getting ready to go here. Let's see, this girl, she was at 11. I couldn't get any big locks with her, but she's finally starting to lock up, and she's actually in shed here. She's an OD vanilla clown het DG. I think I actually picked her up from Straight Fire. So it's, ultrasounding. I don't know. I'm on the fence. That wouldn't be the first thing I'd invest in if I was getting into the game again. I'd invest in some nicer animals or a rack system before I'd worry about an ultrasound. But as far as the females go, trying to figure out whether they're gravid or not, they don't move. If they're gravid, if they've had a pre-lay shed, they're spending, like, as far as I see when I'm pulling the tubs open, I don't know what they're doing when I'm not in the tubs, but as far as I see, 99% of the time, they're coiled up in that little ball shape, in that little coil shape on the heat, and they're not moving. So if you have a snake that's moving around all over the place, and they're past their potential due date, yeah, there's a potential that those eggs might be stuck in there, which would be a nice reason to have an ultrasound. Oh, excuse me. Which would be a nice reason to have an ultrasound, so you can actually check to see if she has eggs, if she's egg bound. But if she's been moving around for the whole entire time after the prelay shed and she hasn't been coiled up, there's good odds that the female's probably not gravid. And then getting an ultrasound to figure out whether or not she is, that's probably a good thing there. But at that point, I'd probably still be pairing that female with males, and you may even want to be trying to offer her food because there's potential that she's not gravid at all.